Hi, everyone. Welcome to Relearned. We are at episode 24, and this is, we recently had to change the name of the videos that you may have been watching, but if you're catching us for the first time, we're Relearn now, formally learning outside the lines. We'll probably keep saying that at least for a couple more episodes. Glenn, how are you?
With Kyle and Glenn.
Yep.
Or Glenn and Kyle. It doesn't matter.
That's right. We're getting used to this new normal with how we're going to end up doing the show, but it's brought us a lot of joy personally, and I think it's kept us sane in a rather insane time for us, the people, you know.
Yes.
So quick preview, we have a guest today. So we've got Dr. Levy who's going to join us. Dr. Levy is currently working with the Georgia Film Academy, and we'll talk a little bit about his role and what he does with that. But he's also a published author and was Georgia's Author of the Year back in 2018. So we're really excited to have him as someone who has a pretty wide wealth of experience, both in education, post-secondary. It's going to be great.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I'm sorry not to toot his horn too much, but like literally when I think of people that have had an impact on me, like Dr. Levy is literally one of my heroes. So this is really cool. This is really cool.
So let's kind of get into what we always do. Glenn, what's an anecdote you can share with us today?
Well, I just want to give a shout out to one of my students, Nathan, and I might even tell him about this recording when it comes out. But like, we all had those students. I think there was a point during the year where he would pretty much, like, I could tell he hated to see me. Like every day when he came in, like he just hated to see me. He did not want to be in my class. He put his head down. We would go through this thing with his headphones like every day, like it was a thing. And it was at 7 a.m., right? Of course, it's like the first class. You can imagine I don't really have an off switch. So I'm like this all the time. I'm like this at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm like this at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like this all the time. So I'm probably really annoying. And I just ground his gears every day. And so we just got in this thing where it was a struggle, like every day. And when DLD happened, he was one of my students that kind of fell off the radar a little bit. When we moved into podcasting, he was like not really with it. Like he just didn't want to do it. He was just real resistant. And part of it, I think, was because of the fact we didn't have the strongest relationship going into this. But one of the things that we've worked on, and I did not quit on him at all, was I got this email from him one night at like 12 o'clock in the morning. And it was just like, I think kind of like a cry for help a little bit, with like him just drowning with his grades, with his struggle, with his life. And I like had this choice. I mentioned this on a previous episode. I talked about this situation. I had this choice of how to respond. And I like found the most care I could possibly find in my heart, and just wrote back to him as a person that cared about him, not as someone that was caring about his grades, but someone that cared about him as a person. And today I listened to his podcast that he submitted for his performance final, and it was outstanding. It was amazing. It was so much better than I think he was expecting it to be. Like I could tell there was a time, Kyle, when he was like, I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to take the L. This is stupid. I can't do it. It's too hard. It's too much of a struggle. And then he wrote back like a week later, and he's like, man, I think I'm just making this harder than it is. But I loved on him all the way through this process. And I told him today in an email, I wrote him, I said that what I'm most proud about is his ability to do his best, even when things are hard. And I'm watching him become like a man that does that. No, even when things are hard, like he still does his best. And I was like, that's the guy you want to be. And I was like, I'm excited I hope you stay in touch, because I really want to see what that man does, that does his best when things are hard. And I might have shed a couple tears, but it's just cool, man. It's just really cool. So
yeah, and I think what you just described is like what we try to define as grit, right? Like that's And I think one of the things maybe we mischaracterize about grit is that grit doesn't just come out of like the ether, right? Like somebody
Yeah.
isn't innately built with grit. And if we
Yeah.
talk about wanting that term in our classrooms, I think it starts back to what we always talk about, we always believe in, which is yes, the teacher, but it's about how that teacher develops the relationship, the care
Exactly.
ethic, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that's what you were able to get out of him. Now, there was a chance Nathan would have decided not to do this, but Nathan probably the likelihood he would not have done it would go up exponentially had you not kind of continued, that path that you were on, which was like, hey, still here for you, still going to answer your questions, not giving up on you. I know you can do it. Give it a try. Push, push,
Yeah.
push. And that's kind of that toughness or whatever in the little 19.5 episode that we had put out for everybody. We just talked really briefly about that idea too, that, great teachers also know when to be tough. And so to me, that was you being tough. It wasn't about you being mad or angry. It was just saying, hey, I'm not giving up on you.
Yeah. Chunking, differentiating, breaking things down differently, creating, and I created individual screencastifys just for him. And I would send him an email like every day and be like, hey man, I'm just reaching out. Here's the work for today, and just kind of chunking it differently. But yeah, we've got to build grit. Grit isn't something students just wake up with, like, oh, I've got it inside me, I can just pull it out whenever I need to, like a superpower. It has to be built. Like those are little baby muscles that it's our job to teach them how to use the gym equipment to get stronger, to use that metaphor. But yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's my anecdote.
No, that's good. So I think we'll stick with yours because I think yours is really great. Mine is fine, but I can share it for another day. I think it'd be good for us to go ahead and get into what we always do in part 2, which is our digital teaching hack. So what do we have?
Digital. Cool. So I want to share a couple different Chrome extensions. There we go. That's what I'm trying to say. So we've all done this thing where we found a great article or something we wanted to share in our classroom, and we're like, oh wow, this would be great. But look at all of this stuff that's all over it. So there's a banner at the top. There's maybe some unnecessary pictures. Here's an anti-snoring device right in the middle of our article. And then maybe there's some comments at the bottom that we don't want. So we want the meat, but we don't necessarily want all the other stuff on it. There's something called Print Friendly and PDF that I love. That's a quick Chrome extension. And I'll just show you guys how it works. But if you click that button there, it will, and it adds it to an extension. So it's always on your Chrome. But you can just click off, like, I don't want this word advertisement. Let's get rid of that. Continue reading the main story. I don't want this part about Trump because I don't want this to be political more than it already is, even though everything's political. But it allows you to select what parts you want to delete off of your articles. And then you can save it as a PDF, you can email it, you can print it. And there's a lot of tools out there that do this, but this has been my old faithful that I've used for a really long time. Like I said, it's just called Print Friendly and PDF. It's a fast tool to delete the junk off your articles and then create an easy to use PDF for your students.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think there's a lot of, like you said, there's extensions we can talk about in the future that are all pretty powerful and they get updated on a regular basis. The downside to sometimes these add-ons or additions is they go defunct. Like whoever, coded or created them kind of suddenly rides off in the sunset and never updates it and it doesn't work anymore.
Good point.
But some of them are very solid extensions that keep going. And maybe in the future we can talk about how to vet those.
Ooh, I like it. That's a good idea.
All right. Well, what we also do with any of these episodes is, and really our favorite part, I think, is the guests that we bring on. So now we're going to get into what's the good word. So what's the good word is our opportunity to bring on someone from the edusphere, as I keep calling it, some area within education and various roles to bring perspective to what's going on currently and kind of looking forward even beyond our current situation with COVID-19, just really kind of looking at the state of what's going on in education and how we're trying to do right by our students and by really a future workforce and an economy we would all like to have too. So that brings in our guest today, which is Dr. Aaron Levy. So Dr. Levy is someone I've known for several years. Glenn has actually taken his class when he was a professor at Kennesaw State University. He is currently, just to make sure I say it right, the Director of Academics at Georgia Film Academy. Georgia Film Academy is a post-secondary institution that provides people who want to get directly into the film industry a connection point and being able to get them trained immediately and put them in there. But he specifically helps work and build on some of the work that we're doing with secondary schools, but we'll let him speak a little bit to that. And then he is also, in 2018, the Georgia Author of the Year for his book, Blood Don't Lie.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so it's he's multitudinal. He's very talented in many regards. Glenn has already talked about how he's changed his life. So he's a life changer too.
He has.
So let's get him on here with us.
As the kids would say, no cap. He's a life changer, no cap.
You know, that's what I miss about being in the classroom. I'm not going to lie, is, you know, just knowing all the lingo. I'm definitely behind on lingo. Dr. Levy, how are you, sir?
What's up, man?
Hey, good afternoon, fellas.
Did we say enough cool stuff about you?
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Can you say enough cool stuff about Dr. Levy?
I appreciate you saying
List is
that too. As we are by myself in my house for many days. No, it's good. Good. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on with us. We've had so much fun continuing to bring people in. And what's funny about this whole show is I think it's helped me and Glenn realize how big our network actually is sometimes. Sometimes you forget how many people you've met and connected with and developed relationships with. So,
we are all part of Owl Nation, right?
That's right. Yep. Yeah. I'm a double owl myself. And Glenn will be soon, you know.
Yeah.
I guess you got, what, maybe another year?
Maybe less. I think 2 more semesters after the summer.
All right. So. Yeah. So by next spring.
Yeah. Master's.
Nice.
Not a doctorate yet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's right. Hey, there's time, man.
Yeah.
There's time.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we wanted to bring you in here to kind of talk about a lot of different things, but the first piece that I wanted to bring up has to do with some of the work you did with creating the dramatic writing course and some of the dramatic art stuff that you've been doing. So what's kind of the transition been like for you going from teaching in a more traditional university to helping develop curriculum for a post-secondary institution that is meant to be career forward and get you into the field immediately?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a really huge learning experience for me. So in that sense, it's been very, very good because I didn't know a lot of. I mean, the Georgia Film Academy, like you said, was a sort of entrepreneurial type agency that hides itself in the university system of Georgia and the technical college system of Georgia to address the exploding film and television industry needs in our state. So it was a lot of learning how to, going from sort of, and I say this affectionately, the bubble of one institution to now working with all of the institutions not only gave me sort of insight to the institution from whence I came, but also how there's many similarities to different institutions. Can you guys hear me?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I'm getting warning signs. To the similarities and the differences between different institutions, and I really enjoyed navigating I say this affectionately, the politics of how courses and programs get passed in an institution. It was definitely a huge learning curve on that front, and because I really believed in the product. I believed in let's teach students how to the workforce part of our product. So it was an easy sell for me to sell to and I mean sell, but to sell to other institutions and students, and to really collaborate with other folks from institutions and figure out where to put our courses into the programs that already existed, help with programs that didn't exist yet, and then now we've been growing. We have an MFA program coming out, and then what I'm probably most excited, especially with you guys and your audience, is what we've done at the secondary level as well.
Mm-hmm.
To have a brand new English language arts core requirement option in the state of Georgia, it hadn't happened since I've been here, since 2004. So we're really excited about that.
Yeah,
I mean,
and so that's one of your big passion projects that you developed. I mean, I remember talking to you and almost the anger you felt from the idea that people were not being like, no, you come on, you got to open this up, do it now, you're wasting time.
Yeah.
Not to, I guess, get deeper again, like you said, in the political sphere of it, but that's some of it. So, could you give us a little bit of insight into what this course you developed in dramatic writing is and how you think it is doing? Well, I don't know. I mean, why should we be taking? Why should we be teaching it? Why should kids be taking?
Yeah, and I'll correct you. It wasn't anger; it was passion.
Oh well, I mean, you're right. I apologize. Sometimes there's blurred lines there.
Yeah, exactly. I hope I didn't yell at anybody, but
no yelling.
But I mean, we were approached in working with. I'll give you a little bit of the background. I mean, in 2018. We worked on this in partnership with the Department of Ed. And then we had to invite a district to be a part of it. And Fayette County is where one of our huge main teaching hubs is at Pinewood Studios. And they were an excited partner. So with those three, we partnered together to create the course. And I wanted to make sure the course met the state standards and it wasn't just an elective type of course. And so, but obviously it's inspired by the environment that we're in, that there's a huge production industry in Georgia. Well, what Georgia is still working on, while we have a multi-billion-dollar production industry, we have we have a production industry, not the full ecosystem of the film industry. And so while we were working on that at the the EDU level and now the master's level, we thought that there was a great opportunity to foster young Georgians telling stories about Georgia, and then they can come up through the Georgia Film Academy if they're still interested in film. So that's kind of the background of how it started, and then the vision of, hey, you can't just teach a screenwriting class and start with screenplays and call it an English language arts requirement option. You have to hit everything. So yeah, I harken back to some of the stuff that I was teaching in English ed programs that has been vetted for years, but maybe that seems odd to some folks in the field. But it's definitely not. It's research based on best practices. I thought this was a great class that we can embrace the best practice of teacher as writer.
Yep.
And that is from day one, how we have created the training and created the year-long curriculum. So to back up, what happened was, once the course was approved, it was approved for you earn 2 credits with it. I know you guys know this, but 2 credits, a fine arts credit and an English language arts requirement core credit. And so from there, the PSC, Professional Standards Commission of Georgia, looked at the course and decided that teachers needed to have either a significant background in the content area or they needed to get the training. So that because most English teachers, as you guys know, don't take screenwriting, television writing, and playwriting on their journey to become English teachers. Whether they should, that's a different conversation, but they don't have that. And then most theater teachers or AVTF teachers don't have English language arts pedagogy and methodology in their school background. If they do, the PSC will give them a micro endorsement and they can teach this class. If they don't, they either can go back and get those credits, or the PSC has reviewed and blessed the Georgia Film Academy's teacher training, which is 5 days. Typically we do it in the summer, but we're going to look to extend that, and maybe, especially in these times, make it somewhat virtual. We're going to see how that goes this summer. But it's 5 days, very akin to AP training, 5 days, about the same amount of money to do it. And but like what the Georgia Film Academy does at the EDU level, it's the course is created, or the training is created and taught by industry professionals and English language arts curriculum experts.
I'm nodding my head heavily because I've gone through that training and gotten my certification, and it's unbelievably cool training.
Cool.
Like, I got certified down at Pinewood Studios. I actually got to walk some of the sound stages and meet some of the different authors and publishers and screenwriters. And I mean, people with real industry experience provide this training. So to be able to pass that on to your students is like just an unbelievable gift.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, we took a long time and made sure we did it. I think, right, we're still tinkering with it because, like you do, you reflect and get feedback from the teachers. But essentially, what the training is we created a 5-day training, but we also created a year-long curriculum because we didn't want to train on something that didn't exist, and we want the course to do well. We obviously, and Glenn can tell you, we had a significant vision on what this course could and should be, and knew that it would need to be anchored into a curriculum, especially for teachers. Like, you can't go and in 5 days and learn how to write a screenplay, let alone be able to teach it. So anchoring it in the curriculum, anchoring it into the curriculum, I think gives teachers a comfort level and also a support system. And if they follow that curriculum either really, really closely, as much as they're comfortable straying from it, I think it gives a good sort of outline and background on how to hit everything you need to hit.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and we know that that's what it's going to take, right? I mean, you've got to, thinking about adult learning and everything, if you want people to do the things that you want them to accomplish in the classroom as a teacher, you got to train them, and then you got to provide them the resources they're going to need to be able to do it. And that's what Georgia Film Academy has been able to do through this program, which I think is phenomenal. Kind of the follow-up to all of that, and you were already talking a little bit about this, is how has Georgia Film Academy had to really rethink the way they are trying to do training and stuff. So your compatriot that I work with from time to time, Josh Lee, we had a recent conversation where he's like, production right now is shut down. There's nothing going on. Studios are having big conversations about what that could look like going forward. So that obviously impacts you all as well. So what does this summer going into fall look like when you guys have conversations around teacher training or even EDU level?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question. I'll talk about EDU level first because that's what I just kind of came out of. This is the last week for college courses, but the Georgia Film Academy right away had to figure out, plan, and do just like you guys. How do we put our courses online mid-semester? And so because I had taught, not only taken courses at KSU on how to create an online class, but also taught online at KSU, I had a little more insight on how to do it. But again, we're trying to take courses that are labeled hands-on courses and put them online. And also, which is really important to me, still make the students feel like they were getting what they needed to get out of those courses, without just providing busy work. And so, what we did was, especially early on, is we went down with as minimal as folks as we could, and with the proper permissions for health and safety, and videotape. We filmed the demonstrations, like the same kind of demonstration, because typically our courses are held in an industry hub, and they are, we're going to teach you this concept for production. So that's typically it's always led by the industry professional who demonstrates and talks about this, and there's definitely an academic component to it. So we want to make sure that was all captured. So we have pretty amazing PowerPoints that go along with each concept, and then we filmed the instructors demonstrating the concepts, and they had the PowerPoints to go with it. So they were filming the PowerPoints, which is exactly what they would do in the classroom. Okay. And then we tried to create assignments like you guys probably did, you know, where they were synthesizing what they learned and doing something with it that was as close to, you know, the hands-on experience as possible. Lots of film concepts you can work on outside of a film, you know, set, and still be able to grasp that concept. And so we did that. We worked hard on that, and then we had to, you know, you guys know what D2L is, Desire to Learn. That's the system we put everybody on. And so part of what I had to do was, as the folks were filming the content of the classes, me and a couple other folks had to create the classes in D2L. And we had to teach these guys who are, you know, basically used to working on sets and not online classes, how to operate in D2L, you know?
Yeah.
So we were very much 24/7 those first 4 or 5 weeks, just like, you know, if you have a problem, let me know. We Zoom, we fix the problem on D2L. Meanwhile, unlike what typically happens, where you teach a course in D2L and then you import the whole course the next semester you teach it.
Yeah.
We had to import week by week because we were flying the plane while we were creating.
Yep. Yeah.
And that created some, you know, some challenging times, but it was all good and worked really well with the instructor colleagues, and you know, coming up with creative assignments, figuring out, you know, are we pushing them too much? You know, all the kinds of stuff I'm seeing online as well. And also trying to advise the instructors, hey, you know, just get your students to, you know, get finished as much as possible, and not handle it like we will more, you know, this summer where it starts out being an online course.
This sounds very familiar. All of this sounds very similar to some of the stuff we're going through. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, it sounds like all the work that you've done, right, has for EDU is preparing you for what you want to do this summer, which I think is exactly what you were about to launch into.
Yeah, I mean, that's why the delivery of the dramatic writing course, where I'm not trying to teach somebody how to light a set, seems a lot easier. Not easier, but I don't feel like we're going to lose anything, you know, aside from what you lose in the face contact. What I'm trying to figure out over the next 3 weeks, because we start the first training on the 26th, is how much synchronous and asynchronous should we do, you know, and what that will look like in a week-long, you know, setting. I think the rules change a little bit in a week-long training where you're not, where for a semester, probably more asynchronous, and then, you know, the professor, whoever, the teacher, checks in several times a week synchronously. But I don't think that's going to fly, you know, in this kind of training. I think it's going to be more synchronous. And the good news is we still have all the industry professionals signed on, the you know, ELA, you know, curriculum experts signed on. So there'll be a lot of variety
that's cool.
Past that first day.
Yeah, that's cool.
Well, part of what we try to do with this is we always like to get around to what's kind of positive about a situation that has been otherwise not always very positive.
Yeah.
One of the questions we wanted to ask you is what do you think is the positive that's going to come out of this for education, right? So what does this kind of either force us to reckon with or come to terms with, or how are we going to change in a good way from this whole situation?
I'll talk globally, and then I can give you a specific example of this. At least I hope it's an example. You know, obviously online teaching has been around for a long time, you know, and I think I remember when I was at KSU and they were considering a master's degree in education. I mean, that's how far back I was, or in leadership education, not the Masters of Arts in Teaching, in leadership, where we were working with the ed department to come up with that. There were professors who said, no way, we're not doing it. We're not doing it. It's not as good as, face-to-face and whatnot. And what I think the grim reality of that was, okay, you guys don't have to do it, but then the students are going to take a program that does do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, they'll find the program.
Yeah, so I think what you saw was people acquiesce and create the best kind of program as possible. And then also discover, which is what I think happened, hey, it's not just, discussion boards. Like, there's lots of tools that you can use. Yeah. You guys probably know them a lot better than I do. This semester, I was trying to create a simple way of delivery for folks who were not only have never taken, an online class, let alone taught one, but there's lots of tools, and so it becomes a puzzle. How do I figure out how do I have a feather circle? Let's say, how do we do this in an online environment and still get what they're supposed to get? And I had to figure that out at KSU. And so globally, I think if and when we get back to a face-to-face, format, I think teachers are going to have more tools. And maybe that's the way to look at it, that they're going to have way more tools. And I also think teachers are going to really start to conduct formal or mostly informal research by going, wow, this is way different than I've ever taught before. How has this changed how the students got it? So in some ways, again, I could be trying to reach for a silver lining here, but in some ways it could reinvigorate some teachers because it's going to, make them look at their classroom like an experiment, a lab, like how does this work? What's working, what's not working. So instead of the drill of teaching a class they've taught face-to-face for the last 10 years, maybe it breathes a little life there because they're on the spot.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great point.
I think it's a really good point, and I hope that is one of the positive effects too. I know for sure I've been asking my teachers that I support to reflect a little bit more, and one of the things that came out of their conversation that I thought was profound is they talked about how their teaching became so much more individualized for the students. And Glenn, you spoke to this earlier when you were giving your shout out to your student, was you tailored the experience for him because you could. Mm-hmm. We're in flexible spaces, we're in flexible time, distance is all the same right now, which you've said before as well. So you could do that tailoring for that student and look at the impact it had, right? So
Yep.
That's what I'm excited about when I think about positive impacts.
Yeah, it could mean that they are spending more time with their students. Now, I saw that happen with our instructors, but I think we do need to strike a good equilibrium so that we're not burning out the teachers. I think, and the students, but definitely I think teachers. I know I was looking at a screen all day, Zooming all day. It was a lot. I'll give you guys a quick, a specific example, also as a way, hopefully, to shout this out to your audience. Is for the dramatic writing course, one of the for the theater, the major assessment is a 10-minute play. And so if teachers followed our curriculum, they assigned a 10-minute play and they wrote a 10-minute play, right? Again, they're teachers writing alongside their students. And we came up with a state, the reason why we do the 10-minute play is, one, you can bite that off more than a full-length play. You're not spending a whole year just writing plays. It's an interesting animal, the 10-minute play. And there are literally hundreds of contests for 10-minute plays out in the world. So a teacher could literally find a contest, grab that 10-minute play, and then the students can actually submit their 10-minute play of what it feels like to be a writer. Feel that rejection and just simmer in rejection. No, I'm just kidding. So, but they could, you know, like we say, write for something bigger and better than a grade, right? And but we created the state competition where each school that taught dramatic writing and taught the 10-minute play, they needed to pick the one 10-minute play that was the best 10-minute play, however they wanted to pick it, and they sent it to us. And we had 3 judges, not me, but 3 judges picked the top 6 plays for the student plays and the top 2 plays for the teachers, right? Which I'm really excited about. The teachers were part of the mix, so that they were in the hunt here. And we were supposed to have a staged reading performed by professional actors in conjunction with the Alliance Theater and other theaters around town. This past Sunday, May 3rd at 6 o'clock at Grady High School. Grady, as you probably know, is sort of central Atlanta. And we're going to invite everybody we could. And that day, the playwrights were going to be all day in rehearsals with their actors and professional directors and make changes, blah, blah, blah. But obviously we had to change. And part of that change was, deciding that we would do a Zoom performance. Don't cry. And so on the 19th and 20th of this month, we had done a call out wide for actors, and we got 23. We had to cap it at 23 actors around the country, and somewhere in England too. So it was in that sense, we were able to widen the net on the actors. And a lot of actors are out of work, and so they were very willing to, do this kind of thing. They call it Zacting, Zoom acting.
Yeah.
So
that's clever. That's
yeah.
Cool.
So on the 19th, we would invite 2 of the playwrights, the acting troupe for those 2 plays. And they each play had an hour and a half where they rehearsed the play, not only for the actual script, but also to work out the technical part and figure out the best way to zact as it is. And then they recorded it and then basically got a couple runs in. And then so we have all of those plays right now with one of our instructors who's editing it. And we have the students and the teachers provide a 30-second intro to the plays talking about process. But what was cool about it too, and I'm going to try to post some of this online, was the interaction, the process part. Glenn knows, because I love process. I love talking about process. Yeah. Which won't be part of that broadcast, right? It'll be the end result. But after there was a run, how elated the student playwrights were. Because they'd never heard it out loud by really skilled, talented folks.
That's cool.
And then there was certain changes that were made, because everybody chimed in. As much changes as we could make without actually having the script there. There was even, I remember one time there was an actor said, "Why did you cut this one line?" They could see some cut that happened. And there was that discussion, why we cut that line, and the actor wanted to save the line. And, we had to say, part of that is it's great that the actor got to see a line, even if it's cut, so that it helps them understand who the character is, even if those kinds of things happened. But what a super gift for these playwrights, even the teachers as well.
That's cool.
And the teachers of the playwrights got to, what's it called, loom on Zoom. They got to watch it happen as well. And I think 5 out of 6 teachers did that as well.
That's cool.
So I'm not saying it's better. It's different. It's a different opportunity. And broadcast, more people would see it. Mm-hmm. And regardless, we're going to have a recording that will help dramatic writing teachers next year.
Mm-hmm. Because
they'll be able to use that for,
Talk about some big bait, that big carrot. That's really, really cool. And a bigger net. I think those are great points. That reminds me a lot of actually what Dr. Dale said about how we can't expect it to be the same, but we can definitely appreciate those positive differences that come out of stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it's just the authenticity of what's happening, right? It's the real networking with the actors and the directors and the people who do this work, and it is the authentic experience of seeing it come to life, and it's life changing, and that's when we think about our classrooms. When I think about when I was in the classroom, and I know when Glenn thinks about his classroom, you want to create those moments of authentic. This is how what you're learning in my classroom goes beyond the classroom experience, and why it's about learning and not about a standard that happens to be written out in text at the state level.
Exactly.
Well, and then hope Glenn knows that I try to teach teachers that way anyway. That you can hit the standards and still come up with authentic ways to hit the standards, and also interest kids in what they're writing. I mean, that's the one feedback. Again, it's anecdotal. Nobody has done a research. I think this would be a great doc, dissertation to follow, to get some quantitative what's going on with dramatic writing, and maybe that'll happen. I'm not doing it, but some young doc whippersnapper could do it.
Wink, wink, nod, nod.
Yeah, if you go that direction. But you can see, why, there might be an example of test scores improving. I don't even know where testing is going to be at that time. But the fact that the students enjoyed what they were writing, and they were writing more than they typically do in dramatic writing. They ain't nothing. I mean, they were reading, but they're reading like writers, and they were writing a lot. If you follow our curriculum. Oh yeah. But every time I went, because we have a retention program, I went to a lot of classes, over a dozen. And maybe this is a loaded question, but I'd ask students, what do you think of the class? And I've never been in an English class where they actually liked, across the board. Now, maybe they could have been performing for me, or, but they seemed to genuinely just like what they were doing.
Well, hey, cool. Dr. Levy, thank you for joining us today. I think everything you had to say was important. I feel like anybody who's going to watch this episode is going to get a lot out of understanding what GFA is, the secondary opportunities for training for teachers,
dramatic writing,
the goals going forward for what this could become and how it will evolve. But we're definitely up against it on time, so we're going to go ahead and do our sign off. So everybody, thank you as always for watching and connecting with us. We'll continue to do this as long as you're willing to watch. You can catch me online at the Prof Jones on Twitter,
and I'm at gchant668.
And again, Dr. Levy, thank you for joining us, and we'll see all of you later. Stay healthy and stay safe.
Hey, thanks for doing this, guys.